All right, so hopefully you guys submitted your attendance, and then I just said we are doing lesson 2.5, and if you have not done the 2.4 critical juncture, you need to do so. All right, so 2.5, we are going to review and kind of wrap up this whole force and mass and velocity. And so the first thing that we are going to do is a sorting tool. So we will see 3 pictures on the screen in Amplify, and what we're going to do is match those key concepts to the correct diagram. All right, so if you're on Pear Deck, go ahead and click on that screen. You're going to open up the force and motion sorting tool, and then you will hand that in up at the top left. So your goal is to match a key concept to the pair of diagrams that illustrate its cause and effect relationship. All right, take about 3 minutes to do that. There's only 3 pictures, 3 key concepts to match. All right, take about another minute and a half to finish up this warm-up, and then make sure you are back in our Pear Deck. All right, about another 30 seconds. Make sure you get that wrapped up. All right, so for our second activity, we are going to do a simulation, and this is what's going to take up most of class. We're going to go over the warm-up first before we go into this activity, but we will be doing a simulation that's going to take up about 30 minutes of class, okay? So today we are going to review those key concepts that you saw in your warm-up, and so your understanding of those key concepts will be important when the space agency shares some new data about the pod. All right, so the images from the warm-up illustrate 3 of our key concepts. Question for you guys, how did you match the images to the statement? Here's a bigger picture of them, and let's talk about them. Okay, so our first key concept, it says if the same strength force is exerted on 2 objects, but the objects have different masses, the object with less mass will have a greater change in velocity. Which picture did you guys put that under? The left, right, or the middle? Y'all can just respond in the chat or unmute yourself. All right, Kendall put in the middle. All right, so if the same strength force is exerted on 2 objects, but the objects have different masses, the object with less mass will have a greater change in velocity. All right, so you're looking for 2 objects that have different different masses. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of middle. That's okay, Ravon. All right, so that key concept is going to go right here in the middle. This is the only picture that has 2 different rolling objects on it. You've got the lighter, smaller one up here at the top and the darker one at the bottom. And so you can see that they are both pushed with the same strength force. That arrow is representing the force. And then they have a different change in velocity because those blue lines aren't as long on the bottom one. All right, so second key concept in the middle here. A stronger force can cause a greater change in velocity. Which one did you guys put that with? Okay, Kendall put it to the right. So did Riley. So did Rawan. So did Natalie. And Lacey. Perfect. All right, so a stronger force can cause a greater change in velocity. You guys can see the arrows here. The top picture has a stronger force. The bottom picture has a smaller force. So you guys can see that with the blue lines. And so that last one obviously has to go to the left, right? And so it says how an object changes velocity depends on the direction of the force exerted on that object. And so since that one is talking about direction, we can see the arrows here are going in different directions. So we know that the object is going to go in a different direction. Okay? So hopefully you guys handed that in. All right, now for this activity, it's going to take the longest, like I said. We are going to run several missions in the Force and Motion Sim to deepen our understanding of the key concepts about force and changes in velocity. All right, so you should have taken the critical juncture. That's why I said you can't do this next assignment until you have taken that critical juncture, because after taking the critical juncture, it put you in different groups. And so there's going to be 3 groups, a purple, green, and blue group. And you guys are going to complete totally different sets of tests in this simulation. And so you'll select the mission that is called for in your instructions. All right, so there's a green, blue, and purple group. So here's where it gets a little bit confusing, because if we were in class, you guys would have had this sheet with the instructions. You would have been looking at the sheet of instructions and doing the simulations on your computer. But what we have done is we have put those instructions into Canvas because they're not in Amplify. And it kind of stinks because you have to go back and forth between Canvas and the simulation, but that's just how we have to do it. Okay, so what we're going to do, I'm going to show you which group you're in if you do not know already. Okay, so here are the groups. There are more people in the purple group because that's what it defaults to if you have not taken the critical juncture already. All right, so look and see where your name is. If you do not know what color you are, then here are the colors. All right, I know there's not a lot of people in the blue group, but that is okay. All right. Oh, it is. I thought I had the right one. Give me a second. There we go. There's still not a lot of people in the blue group. Oh, that's still not the right class. There we go. All right, so you got the purple, blue, and green group. All right, so it should have already told you what color you're in anyways, but here it is. All right, we're just going to work individually on this, and I'm going to go over how we're going to do it because you will be going back and forth between Canvas and your simulation. All right, so there are the groups. If you have not taken the critical juncture, then you need to do so. All right, that's going to be that's an assessment grade in Canvas, so it will bring your grade down a little bit if you do not take it. All right, hold on, I got a chat. Okay, so the instructions in Canvas, if you're looking at my screen, then I will show you where these directions are if you want to get off Pear Deck. Okay, so there is a blue student sheet, a green student sheet, and a purple student sheet. Whatever color you're in, you're going to pick that sheet. Okay, so if I'm in the purple group, because there's a lot of people in that purple group, I'm going to go here. And so what this is going to pull up is a Google Doc. Give it a second to load. All right, you cannot type right in this, so you're going to have to click this pop-out button. All right, once you click the pop-out button, it's going to come to a page like this. These are your instructions. All right, there's 2 parts to it. It looks like a lot, but just you have to follow those instructions, and it can be pretty straightforward. What I need you to do is open it up with Google Docs, because you're not going to be able to type in it unless you open it up with Google Docs, and it doesn't go straight to Google Docs. You have to do these little extra steps. I'm not sure why, but that's just how it loaded into Canvas. So once you open it up with Google Docs, you're going to be able to type in it. All right. Once you open it up with Google Docs, you'll be able to type in it. And so you can see, my computer's loading really slow. You can see all of your instructions here. All right. Part 1 is here, and then you scroll down just a little bit, and part 2 is right here. Okay. I'm going to go over that one more time. That is in modules. If you go to modules in Canvas, your student sheet, whatever color you are, is right here under today's date. You'll open that up. If you scroll your cursor over the this little picture right here, there is a pop-out button. It says pop-out. You'll click it. It'll take you to something. It shows like it's in your Google Drive, but then you've got to open it up with Google Docs, and it will have a page just like this that you can type in. Okay, next thing you need to do. You should be in Amplify already after you did your warm-up. You should be in Amplify since you did your warm-up. This is going to be tab 2. Tab 2 in Amplify. All right, you're going to pull up a page that looks like this. It will default to the purple group just because, and you can change your color up here at the top where it says Force and Velocity Concepts. So you can change it to purple, blue, or green. I'm going to keep it on purple just because that's what student sheet I opened up. All right, so you've got a part 1 and part 2. So part 1, we're not going to work with partners. We're just going to work individually. You're going to conduct a series of missions in the force and motion simulation to make objects change velocity in a specific way. All right, it says the challenge will be to exert a force only one time and have it cause the velocity change you're after. All right, so number 1, it says follow the instructions on your student sheet for each test. That's where you will just go right back and forth to this page. And then it says don't forget to record your data in that page. And then when you are done with part 1, you will move on to part 2. Okay? If you need to change your color, you can go up here, like I said. You can go to blue, you can go to green, and make sure to open up that specific student sheet in Canvas. Okay? There are going to be 1 or 2 questions after you do the simulation stuff. There's going to be 1 or 2 questions after you do the simulation. So you have your instructions on this number 1 circle down here at the bottom in Amplify, and you got this number 2 circle down here at the bottom that goes to a question or 2. All right, so open up that simulation. If you're in tab 2 and Amplify, you should be able to open up the simulation, and you'll see this simulation that we've been using for the last couple of weeks. All right, to change what mission you need to be on, you will go over here to the top left corner, and you will press on a certain mission. So if you scroll down a little bit, there's the purple group missions, there's the blue group missions, and then there is the green group missions. All right, so if I'm looking here at part 1 in the purple, I'm going to select the 2.5 Purple Explore from the Force and Motion Sim. For the other groups, it's going to tell you exactly where to go. So just follow those instructions. You'll go to the Explore Purple mission. Okay? And then you will follow those directions on this page. It says to tap on the object A, record its initial velocity. So you'll record the direction and the speed, and then you are just going to follow the directions. Okay? If you guys need any help, I will be right here. What you are doing is you're running through the simulation, doing part 1 and part 2, following those directions, and then answering the question, or I think purple has 2 questions. Green and blue have 1, maybe 2 for blue. All right, so I'm going to give you guys probably about 25 minutes to do this. Okay, to run the simulation and to do the question after the simulation. All right, once you are done with both of those, come back to our Pear Deck and we are going to discuss a little bit. All right, so 20 to 25 minutes. If you need any help, I will be here. I'll check on you guys around 10:45, maybe 10:40, and see where you guys are. All right, so we have some new data from Dr. Gonzalez. All right, we're going to respond to some Pear Deck questions based on this new data, and at the very end, we're going to use some vocab from this word bank in Amplify. All right, so here is our new data from Dr. Gonzalez. So we've just been able to recover some useful data from the pod. The mass of the pod is 1,100 kilograms, and that is 130 kilograms more than usual. This means the pod was carrying more asteroid samples than the pods normally carry, so it is more massive. We hope this data will help you explain what happened to the pod during the short time we lost contact. All right, so we have just been told that this pod is heavy, not heavier, but more massive than usual. It's 130 kilograms more than usual. All right, so let's discuss the data and the claims. What could have happened to this pod if we know that it is more massive than usual? Go ahead and respond in Pear Deck. So type out what could have happened to this pod if it is more massive than normal. All right, so if you aren't responding in Pear Deck, make sure you do. I've only got about 7 people responding. All right, you're going to have to pause on the simulation if you're still working on tab 2 and Amplify. You're going to have to pause on that right now so that we can answer these in the Pear Deck, because this is pretty important information that we just got about the asteroid. Well, not the asteroid, but the pod. All right, I'm going to look at some responses. So it didn't slow down enough and it hit the space station and bounced off. The thrusters could have been weaker because of the extra weight, or the extra, let's go with mass instead of weight. It could have bounced off because the pod was carrying too much mass. All right, it could have ran into the station and then changed directions and they went the opposite ways of each other. Could hit the space station. All right, had too much mass. All right, so we know that the pod had more mass than normal. Okay, if the pod had more mass than normal, could the thrusters have stopped it? Think about that, because you are going to pick a claim that is best supported by this new evidence that we got. So we have 2 claims we've been looking at for the past few weeks. So claim 1 says the thrusters caused the pod to move in the opposite direction, and claim 2 said the thrusters only slowed the pod, it didn't stop, and the pod hit the space station, which made it bounce and move in the opposite direction. All right, which claim is best supported by this new evidence that we have? So we have all this evidence, but now we have something new. Which claim can we support with this new evidence? All right, go ahead, pick an answer or pick a claim in Pear Deck. So claim 1 or claim 2, which claim is best supported by this new evidence? All right, I'll show responses when I've got a few more. All right, good job, guys. So if our pod is more massive than normal, that means that our thrusters are not going to be able to move it the same way that it usually does. Right? Those thrusters are not strong enough to move something more massive. All right, now last thing that I need you guys to do is explain why claim 2 is best supported by the new data. Okay, we've got a word bank that we can pull some words from. So if I am here in Amplify, you guys don't have to go to Amplify. I will give you those words that you can use to respond to this. All right, so our word bank is cause, effect, exert, force, mass, and velocity. I'm going to put those in the chat. Make sure that you use at least 2 of those words. All right, cause, effect, exert, force, mass, and velocity. Okay, respond to that question in Pear Deck using some of those words from our word bank. So cause, effect, exert, force, mass, and velocity. Explain why claim 2 is best supported by the new data. Use some of the vocab in the word bank from Amplify. right, if you aren't responding in Pear Deck, make sure you do. So we've got the reason that claim 2 supports the new data is because the velocity of the pod was slower, because the mass of the pod the force of the pod ran into the thrusters and made it change direction, and the velocity of the pod made it move. Okay. Okay, the pod had too much mass for it to completely slow down and stop, right? All right, so explain why thrusters only slowed the pod and it didn't stop. All right, we know that this pod is more massive. So why did the thrusters not stop that pod if it's more massive? Okay, explain why the thrusters did not stop the pod. All right, whoever's typing this is good. The thrusters for the pod were weak because the pod had a larger mass. All right, so finish up writing those. All right, so activity 4 and 5, which is the family homework and the self-assessment, you can skip those activities. We are not going to do those. You do not have to worry about those. So you do not have to do those in Amplify. Okay, the last thing I need you to do, if you did not finish the simulation and those instructions, you need to get those done. If you did get those done, then the only thing I need you to do is the chapter 1 and 2 check-in on Canvas. Okay, since we kind of wrapped up chapters 1 and 2, we did our review today. This is a chapter 1 and 2 check-in on Canvas. So it pulls everything from both chapters together. Okay, that is on Canvas. You guys can see it under today's module. Okay. All right, and here are some extension links. These are different from last week. Okay, there's a video on astronaut debunks common space myth, which is pretty neat. And there's NASA has some games, and then there's also an interactive exploration that NASA has made. Okay. Other than that, I do not have anything else for you today. If you haven't finished your simulation and those instructions, please do. And then also make sure you do your weekly check-in in Canvas. All right, y'all have a great rest of your Thursday, and I will see you all tomorrow.